Hey everyone, welcome back to Stay Ahead. Today we are breaking down how to test one of the most commonly overlooked controls in any audit, business continuity and backup across both Azure Active Directory and your on-premises disaster recovery systems. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to plan the test, what evidence to pull, how to sample, and how to document your findings in a work paper that will hold up under review. This episode is sponsored by Audit.site, an AI-powered GRC platform that helps you map controls, pull evidence, and write work papers faster. Links in the description. Before we touch a single system, we map the control. Business continuity and backup isn't just one requirement. It shows up across almost every major framework you'll be tested against. In ISO 27002, it's Annex A17, business continuity. In SOC 2, it's CC 7.5, backup and recovery. PCI DSS calls it out in requirement 12.10.1 as part of incident response. GDPR and India's DPDP law both require it under Article 32, availability of personal data. And NIST CSF captures it in PR IP4 and PR IP9, recovery planning and backup testing. Why does this matter? Because one well-executed test can satisfy evidence requirements across 5 or more frameworks at once. That's a huge time saver, and it gives you a single source of truth you can hand to any regulator or assessor who comes asking. Work paper anatomy. Every work paper you build for this control needs the same 9 building blocks. Let's run through them quickly. 1. The control objective. 2. Your control steps, covering both design and operating effectiveness. 3. Your sampling strategy. We'll use at least 5 backups or restores. 4. The evidence required. 5. Your testing procedure spelled out step by step. 6 and 7. Your design and operating effectiveness checkpoints. 8 of each. 8. Your results expected versus actual. And 9. Your conclusion and recommendations. Keep the structure in front of you every time you test the control. It's the backbone of the entire audit. Audit methodology on screen. 8-step methodology cards. Here's the methodology from start to finish. Step 1, planning. Define your scope. In our case, that's the Azure Backup Vault plus the On Prem DR site. Step 2, evidence collection. Gather the business continuity plan, DR drill reports, backup logs, and restoration test results. Step 3, testing techniques. You'll use inquiry, observation, inspection, and reperformance. Reperformance is the big one here, actually restoring a sample backup yourself. Step 4, sampling. Select at least 5 backups across databases, VMs, files, cloud storage, and email. Step 5, checkpoints. 8 design effectiveness and 8 operating effectiveness checks per control. Step 6, documentation. Record your procedures, attach your evidence, and note your results. Step 6, documentation. Step 7, findings. If something's wrong, document the condition, criteria, cause, consequence, and recommendation. And step 8, conclusion. Rate the control's effectiveness and tie it back to the frameworks we mapped earlier. Slide 5, control objective. So what are we actually trying to prove? The control objective is simple to say but hard to verify. Continuity plans and backups need to protect critical operations, meet the recovery time objective and recovery point objective, and be tested regularly, not just documented and forgotten. Quick refresher: RTO is how long you can tolerate being down before operations must resume. RPO is how much data loss you can tolerate, measured in time. Both numbers should be defined in the BCP and both need to be tested, not assumed. Design effectiveness checkpoints. Let's start with design effectiveness. In other words, is the plan actually documented and sound on paper? You're checking our BCP and DR plans documented, our RTO and RPO defined. Is the backup strategy documented? Is there a defined restoration testing process? Is the alternate site design documented? Is the DR drill process defined? Is the business impact analysis methodology documented? And is the cloud replication strategy defined? If any of these are missing, you already have a design gap before you have even tested whether it works in practice. Operating effectiveness checkpoints. Now the harder part, operating effectiveness. This is where you prove the plan actually works in the real world. Are backups performed as scheduled? Are they encrypted? Are restore tests actually conducted? Are DR drills actually executed? Is the alternate site really available? Are RTO and RPO actually met in practice? Is the BIA updated annually? And is cloud replication actually active right now? This is where most organizations get caught. The plan looks great on paper, but nobody's tested a restore in 8 months. Evidence collection, Azure AD or cloud. First, let's go get the evidence, starting with the cloud site in Azure. First, navigate to the Azure Backup Vault and open backup jobs. Export the backup job logs as a CSV and take a screenshot of successful backup completions. That's your first piece of evidence. Next, head to Azure Site Recovery and check replication. Screenshot the replication status. You want to see everything showing as protected and healthy. Finally, go to Azure Monitor and check alerts. Screenshot anything showing a completed drill, DR drill. 3 systems, 3 screenshots, backup wall, site recovery and monitor, and you've got your cloud evidence trail. Evidence collection on-prem DR systems. Now let's mirror that process on-premises. Open your backup software, VM, Vault, Veritas, whatever your organization runs, and export the backup logs for the last 30 days. Then pull 3 more pieces of evidence, a screenshot of the restore test part, a screenshot of the DR drill report from internal audit, and a screenshot of the alternate site readiness checklist. Same logic as the cloud side, logs, restore proofs, and drill proof. That combination is what makes a workpaper defensible. Test execution samples. Time to actually execute the test. Our sample size is 5 backups, 1 database, 1 VM, 1 file server, 1 email system, and 1 cloud storage account. For each, you will inspect the backup logs, verify encryption is enabled, perform an actual restore test on at least 1 database and 1 VM, review the DR drill results, and validate whether RTO and RPO were actually achieved. Here's what you're expecting to see: all backups successful, encryption enabled, restore test successful, and RTO and RPO both achieved. But here's a realistic example of what you might actually find. One file server backup failed, encryption was enabled, restore was successful for 4 out of 5 samples, and RTO was met, but RPO was exceeded by 2 hours. And that's not passing result. And that's exactly the kind of finding we need to document properly. Workpaper example, let's turn that finding into a proper workpaper entry. Condition 1, file server backup failed. Criteria ISO 27002 Annex A17 requires tested backups. Cause, a misconfigured backup schedule. Consequence, risk of data loss if that server ever needs to be restored. Recommendation, fix the schedule and retest. Overall result for this control, partially effective, not a full failure, but not a clean pass either, and that distinction matters when you're rating the control. Workpaper updates. This 5-part structure, condition, criteria, cause, consequence, recommendation, isn't just for this one finding. Apply it to every control you test in this audit. Condition is what you found, criteria is the standard requirement, cause is why the gap exists, consequence is the risk impact, and recommendation is the fix. Build this habit once, and every workpaper you write from here on will follow the same clean, defensible structure. Conclusion. So wrapping up, every control gets an overall effectiveness rating: effective, partially effective, or ineffective. In our example, we landed on partially effective. Remember, the single test result maps back to ISO 27002 and other standards. That's the payoff of the control mapping we did at the start. And finally, don't just close the finding, build a remediation roadmap. In our example, fix the misconfigured backup schedule, retest the failed sample, and reassess whether the RPO target still matches what the business actually needs. That's it for this one. If this helped you tighten up your BCP and backup testing process, drop a like, subscribe for more audit tutorials, and let me know in the comments which control you want broken down next. Thanks again to Audit.site for sponsoring this episode. Check the link below if you want to see how AI can speed up your control mapping and workpaper drafting. See you in the next video.